threat is that there will be disinvestment. Responsibility will be moving from partnerships of the NHS, the local authority and the criminal justice services to being primarily a local authority lead. You will know that not every local authority, not every councillor thinks that we should be spending money on drug and alcohol treatment when there are many other services in their area they would rather spend money on. As we've been reflecting on during today, you are powerful people. You are powerful people if you come together. You can form alliances with other powerful people in society in order to say this is investment that should not be rolled back from.
Change what's happening. It's a big national organisation, it's national directives. What can we do as individuals to change that? Well, actually with the localism agenda, it's over to us now. Okay? It's in our little areas. So where you've got a user group representing an area that fits within a local authority, you can now make those representations. You can start to influence the local criminal commissioning groups. You know, practitioners who've got an interest have to try and get involved in this commissioning as well. And we have to make a difference. The downside is if we don't do that, there will be areas that significantly disinfect.
If you define recovery as one thing, it reduces choice. Recovery is an individual choice. It might be maintenance, it might be reducing the drugs, reducing the harm drugs do to you. It might be getting off the script, or it might be moving in between all of those things, improving your social well-being and health. You know, recovery is different and it's individually defined. So.
It is difficult at the minute out there. But what I would encourage people to do, I mean, I've said I'm from Release, is to give us some narrative about what's happening on the ground. So tell us those cases where people are being refused, are being forced to reduce their methadone scripts where they don't agree, and maybe we can look at challenging this in some way.
To be forced to change what they're doing without any meaningful discussion is wrong and abhorrent to me. And yet I am having examples, I say, of two already, where primary care has been removed from the equation because it doesn't fit in with the national drug strategy, quote unquote, from the commissioners, which is, as we all know, is absolute bollocks if you actually let individuals define that recovery journey for themselves.
If somebody is stable, is doing well, their family think it's a risk for them to come off, their doctor doesn't want them to come off, certainly the NTA and the government are not going to force them to come off. I know that doesn't mean that there are places in the country where it will happen, because commissioners don't understand, or they have a knee-jerk reaction to the incentives, or the providers don't understand, or someone working for the provider feels they've been put under pressure, so they then come up with a knee-jerk reaction. So it's not only Release that want to know, and SMNGP want to know, but the NTA wants to know.
To try and find ways to pull together and make sure that we don't end up, you know, reverting back to some kind of postcode lottery, and, you know, and try and kind of keep what we can, and what, compared with other parts of the world, is something people would, you know, pardon the pun, die for, you know, a methadone script, a needle exchange, just the fundamentals. And it seems to me that it's almost like sometimes they're having to re-argue the case for things like methadone maintenance. And yet it strikes me that if someone's dead, how can they recover?
Could you give me the NTA's stand on the decommissioning of shared care, GP shared care, which is what is happening in Bolton? And people who have thought that they were pretty much on an even keel, living quite a normal life, in a stable relationship with the family, etc., are now going to have to go to the local CDTs to get their prescription, to see their drug worker, and there's dealing going on in the car parks. How can that be and help them with their recovery? All those things that you have said, Mr. Hayes, about nothing about us without us, and we must keep those things that are working well. Shared care works well, and I think it would be really good if you could come on to Bolton and tell our about what you said.
I can't actually agree with the statement that shared care works full stop. A lot of shared care works a lot of the time. A lot of specialist services work well a lot of the time. I can't say that any particular set of commissioners are wrong in moving contracts from GPs to other clinicians. That may well be the right thing to do in some places, just as it's the right thing to do to move it from specialist services to the third sector, or supported by GPs, or into shared care? Well, you've asked the question, I'm trying to answer it. I'm trying to answer the question. So there's two different issues. There's an issue about moving contracts from one clinical setting to another. There's a different set of issues about saying to people who are stable and secure on a script that they've got to finish that script. The first, we'd actually need to weigh up on a case-by-case basis whether it's right to move the contract or not. The second is wrong, full stop.
Partnership where I work, we just lost 600 grand off our annual pool treatment budget. A large percentage of that is because we're not getting enough people absent. We've got services having a knee-jerk reaction and panicking, not because of the interpretation, not because of the mood music, because they're bloody money, right? So we have service users directly having their choice removed because we're panicking to keep our commissioners are panicking to try and keep our funding, which is disappearing. So I just worry that it's not just interpretation. There are funding issues at the moment, which is removing choice in some areas.
As well as kicking someone out of treatment inappropriately without having a conversation with them, there's also quite a few places where people are left in treatment without anyone having a conversation with them. And the point of the funding changes is to say, all right then, of the people you've got in treatment, how many of them should be there? How many of them have you had a conversation with? How many of them have you tried to help to leave the treatment system behind? And as there's differential performance, we want everyone to be trying as hard to do that in each area as the best. So that's why we're rewarding people for doing that. We're not trying to make people actually do things that are inappropriate. And that's why the way in which the formula works is if the person comes back into treatment, you don't get any money for it. Yeah? If they panic and you get a knee-jerk reaction that is not based on good practice, then they'll begin to tear people out of treatment when they shouldn't. And it won't do them any good because those people will come back. And when those people come back, they will actually...
Come on! The system. Those people who can't come back won't be allowed back.
Evidence for that. Evidence for that. If anyone's got any evidence of people being denied access back to treatment, if anyone's got any evidence for that, I'd be delighted to hear.
The police helpline are constantly getting people who are being forced into detox and then not allowed to come back in.
Well, as I say, if that's happening, then I want to hear it.
It is happening.
Well, I want to hear about it from the people it's happening
Look
to.
at Bolton. Look at Bolton.
Well, what's happening?
People who won't be able to come back as well are going to be the people who are dead.